We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. US President Donald Trump issues last warning to Hamas to accept hostage deal or face consequences. Hamas says discussing ideas received from the US. Trump indicates readiness to impose new sanctions on Moscow hours after Russian drones hit Kyiv. European leaders to visit US to discuss Russia-Ukraine conflict. Detained workers to fly back after South Korea reaches deal with US to release citizens. White House border czar vows more raids on businesses. In sports, Indian men's hockey team beats defending champion South Korea to win the Asia Cup title. India earns direct qualification for the Hockey World Cup in 2026. And another chapter added in the greatest rivalry of modern tennis as Carlos Alcaraz beats arch rival Jannik Sinner to claim his second US Open title. And on to the details now. US President Donald Trump on Sunday issued a last warning to Hamas to accept a deal to release hostages from Gaza. Trump, in a social media post, warned Hamas to accept the Gaza truce and hostage deal or face consequences. Well, the post comes after Steve Witkoff, Trump's envoy to the Middle East, sent a new proposal last week to Hamas for a hostage and ceasefire deal through an Israeli peace activist. Well, Trump also said that US is going to have a deal in Gaza very soon as he traveled back to Washington from New York. He added that he thought all the hostages would be returned dead or alive.
No, but you'll be hearing about it pretty soon. We're trying to get it ended, get the hostages back, get it ended. We got them all back, but 20. And as you know, we have 20, plus there are a lot of, unfortunately, dead bodies involved. And they want them back. The parents want them back. So we had some very good discussions. Good things could happen.
Well, under the deal, Hamas would free all the remaining 48 hostages on the first day of the truce in exchange for thousands of Palestinian prisoners jailed in Israel and negotiate an end to the conflict. Trump's comments came as the Israeli military began flattening high-rise buildings in Gaza City, marking the first major phase in its new offensive to occupy the city. The operation, backed by Trump, is expected to escalate in the coming days. Well, also, Hamas said it was ready to immediately sit at the negotiating table and that it received some ideas from the United States side to reach a ceasefire deal in Gaza. Hamas also reiterated its readiness for negotiations to release all hostages in exchange for a clear announcement of an end to the conflict and the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from the conclave. And latest on Russia-Ukraine conflict now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Sunday said Kyiv expects a strong response from its international partners, particularly the United States, in the wake of latest Russian mass strike on government building in the capital. Well, in his evening address, Zelensky said that he was counting on a strong U.S. response to the latest massive Russian barrage on Kyiv, its largest ever. The strike damaged the Cabinet of Ministers buildings in central Kyiv, marking the first time the government building has been hit since the conflict began in February 2022.
It is clear that Russia is trying to hurt Ukraine, and the attacks are becoming more brazen. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine is informing all partners about the latest Russian escalation. We are counting on a strong response from America. This is what is needed.
Well, U.S. envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, said the Russian attack looks like an escalation in the conflict. The U.S. envoy in a social media post said the attack was not a signal that Russia wants to diplomatically end this conflict. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump said on Monday that he is ready to move to a second stage of sanctioning Russia over the conflict in Ukraine. He also told reporters that individual European leaders would visit the United States on Monday or Tuesday to discuss how to resolve the Russian-Ukraine conflict. Trump also said he would speak to Russian President Vladimir Putin soon. Well, South Korea has secured the release of approximately 300 nationals who were detained during a massive U.S. immigration raid at the Hyundai motor battery plant in Elabel, Georgia, last week. The operation, the largest single-site enforcement by the Department of Homeland Security, had arrested about 475 workers, mostly South Koreans, for alleged and unlawful employment. A chartered plane is set to repatriate them by Wednesday. The $4.3 billion Hyundai LG project remains a key economic venture. While LG Energy Solution, with 47 detained employees and has suspended business trips to the U.S. South Korea, having pledged $350 billion in U.S. investments, aims to reform visa systems to prevent future incidents amid strained relations as U.S. President Donald Trump vows more workplace raids. Well, President Trump warned the foreign companies to obey U.S. law after the South Korean workers were arrested at the Hyundai LG battery plant. Well, Trump said he would look at what happened following the raid and also that it had not harmed his relationship with South Korea. Trump has called on all the foreign companies investing in the United States to respect United Nations immigration laws.
So I'm going to look at that. It's a very interesting situation that took place in Georgia. And we heard about it yesterday. At the same time, ICE was doing right because they were here illegally. But we do have to work something out where we bring in experts so that our people can be trained so that they can do it themselves.
Well, moving on, tensions are running high across the United States as protests break out in multiple cities over President Donald Trump's controversial decision to deploy federal troops and intensify immigration crackdowns. The administration is framing the moves as a fight against crime, but opponents warn it's a dangerous step towards militarizing American cities. Here's more.
You racist cow!
In Chicago, thousands marched through the city's downtown on Saturday. The demonstrations came just after Trump vowed to send National Guard troops to fight crime in America's third largest city, an extraordinary step that critics warn could spark a legal showdown with local officials.
Sending the National Guard and sending ICE agents here to our community is a direct threat to not only us, but our community. It is us, it is our neighbors, it is our friends, it affects everyone. Businesses have been dropping, restaurants have been dropping, people have been scared.
The anger was equally visible in the nation's capital, Washington, where several thousand rallied to demand an end to the National Guard presence. Chants against Trump echoed through the streets as demonstrators carried placards condemning what they called federal overreach.
Today is Free DC. We're opposing the authoritarian regime, and we need to get the federal police and the National Guard off our streets.
At the same time, the administration has launched a fresh deportation drive in Massachusetts. Dubbed Operation Patriot 2.0, the campaign is led by Homeland Security and ICE, building on an earlier surge in May that resulted in 1,500 arrests of undocumented immigrants. Earlier on Friday, President Trump confirmed he has identified another American city for troop deployment, but declined to reveal which one.
Yeah, I have. I have. I'm not going to say it now, but yeah, I have. We're going to go into another place and straighten it out.
With protests swelling, immigration crackdowns intensifying, and the threat of more troop deployments looming, America faces a summer of heightened confrontation between the White House and its own cities. Bureau Report, TT India.
Well, thousands of supporters of former far-right Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro staged a protest across several cities on Sunday, days ahead of the conclusion of his trial for allegedly plotting a coup after losing the 2022 presidential election. Demonstrators in Sao Paulo waved Brazilian and U.S. flags in support of U.S. President Donald Trump, who called the legal actions against Bolsonaro a witch hunt. Despite the support, Trump has also imposed tariffs on Brazilian goods and sanctioned the judges involved in Bolsonaro's trial. Similar protests were also held in Brasilia and Rio de Janeiro. Brazil's Supreme Court is expected to rule by September 12th, while Bolsonaro has allegedly already been barred from running for office until the year 2030. And Guyana's Irfan Ali of the ruling People's Progressive Party was sworn in for a second term as president on Sunday after his victory was ratified by the Electoral Commission. Ali vowed on Sunday that he would build a diversified economy that would create jobs, raise incomes and secure prosperity. In September 1st elections, the People's Progressive Party won 36 seats, 3 more than in the previous one. The We Invest and Nationhood Party won 16 seats. A Partnership for National Unity got 12 and the Forward Guyana movement secured 1. Well, Ali's government, which took office in 2020, has invested in the construction of roads, schools and hospitals and made tuition at the state university free. And Brazil celebrated its Independence Day with a civic military parade in Brasilia led by President Lula da Silva. But the festive mood was faded by rising trade tensions with the U.S. after President Donald Trump slapped a 50% tariff on Brazilian exports. The parade, themed Sovereign Brazil, unfolded as Trump defended the tariffs, calling them retaliation against his ally, ex-President Jair Bolsonaro, currently on trial over an alleged coup attempt. While Brazil honored its freedom, global politics loomed large over the celebration. Well, the Mexican authorities have detained 14 people suspected of being involved in the illicit trade of fuel so far. Mexico's Secretary of Security, Omar Garcia Harfuch, said authorities seized a petroleum tanker in the port of Tampico together with nearly 63,000 barrels of diesel as well as containers and vehicles on March 19th. The tanker had arrived from the United States as per the LSEG tracking data. The authorities further mentioned the seized tanker was carrying diesel wrongly declared as a tax-exempt petrochemical. 14 suspects, including officials and businessmen, have been detained in the ongoing fuel smuggling investigation. And Chile held its 52nd annual march commemorating the victims of the 1973 military coup, drawing over 100 participants in the capital, Santiago. Organized by the human rights groups and relatives of the disappeared, protesters were seen walking through the streets to the General Cemetery carrying photographs, placards and banners honoring the victims of the dictatorship led by General Pinochet. Cultural performances and speeches called for truth and justice. Though some clashes were reported, the focus remained on remembering the 40,000 plus victims of torture, exile and disappearance. The coup's legacy still haunts Chile with over 1,000 people still missing. Pinochet's rule ended in 1990, but the demand for truth continues to echo through the generations. And still to come in India Newshour. Australian woman gets 33 years sentence for globally followed mushroom murder case of in-laws. Japan's PM Shigeru Ishiba resigns after election defeat. LDP begins search for successor. And hundreds of women join mass self-defense class in Mexico City to combat gender-based violence. Welcome back. You're watching India Newshour. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on, Australia's convicted mushroom killer Erin Patterson has been sentenced to life in prison with parole after 33 years by the Supreme Court of Victoria. Well, Erin Patterson was found guilty in July of killing a father-in-law, mother-in-law and sister-in-law with a meal containing poisonous mushrooms, a case that has been globally followed and dubbed the Leogantha mushroom murders. A jury also found the 50-year-old guilty of the attempted murder of another relative, Ian Wilkinson, who survived the 2023 meal at Patterson's home.
For the attempted murder of Ian Wilkinson, I sentence you to 25 years imprisonment. For the murder of Heather Wilkinson, I sentence you to life imprisonment. For the murder of Gail Patterson, I sentence you to life imprisonment. For the murder of Don Patterson, I sentence you to life imprisonment. All sentences are to be served concurrently. The total effective sentence is life imprisonment, and I fix a non-parole period of 33 years.
Well, Ian Wilkinson, the sole survivor of a 2023 Australian mushroom poisoning, thanked police and prosecutors after the court sentenced the assailant Erin Patterson. Wilkinson also thanked medical teams that treated him and the other victims. Well, moving on, the French Parliament is set for a crucial confidence vote on Monday following strong criticism of Prime Minister François Bayrau's strict budget cuts and spending plans. The result will decide whether his government survives or falls, with the outcome likely to affect jobs, public services and daily life across the country. Our correspondent Rohini Gosavi reports for more.
France is heading into an important political moment, and it will affect not only leaders but common people as well. French Prime Minister has put forward a new budget with 44 billion euros cuts in spending. The government saying these cuts are needed because France's debt is too high and must be reduced. But for people, these cuts could make daily life more difficult. If the budget goes ahead, hospitals and schools may get less money, which could affect services. Some transport and building projects might be delayed. Families may receive less support with housing and social benefits. And workers fear there will be less help if they lost their jobs.
I think that's quite a mixed feeling because, we had the same kind of issues last year. So we are quite used to this kind of problems that doesn't get any solutions. But at the same time, it's kind of worrying because we don't know what's going to happen next week. And we feel like, history is repeating and we are not going to find solutions for this issue. So
the current budget in France is very uncertain. We don't know how it will get accepted because the current budget shows a lot of spending coming out from the public pocket. So it will be very, very costly to live in France.
This budget has created anger in the parliament and on the streets. Opposition parties are saying this budget is unfair. And even some members of the ruling side are also not happy with this. All of this has led to confidence vote, which will take place on 8th of September. If the Prime Minister wins the vote, he stays in power and budget will move forward. People will then start feeling the effects of these cuts in their everyday lives. And if he loses the votes, his government will have to resign and that will create political uncertainty. President Emmanuel Macron would then need to decide whether to bring a new prime minister, call a new elections, or try to form a new group of support in parliament.
So it will open a new era of uncertainty. So that's a mess, and sometimes it's once again time lost for true discussion and true action. So once again, it's frustrating, I guess, for French people. And yeah.
Both options have problems. If the budget is approved, then daily life may become tougher because of reduced support. If the government falls, France could face weeks or months of confusion without clear leadership. Decision on September 8 will not only decide the Prime Minister's future, but also shape how people across France will live in the months ahead. Next few days are very important for France. Budget decisions could change life of many people. So everyone is watching closely and hoping the choices that makes life easier and secure. This is Rohini Goswami in Paris for DD India.
Well, Argentina's President Javier Milei faced a significant electoral defeat in Buenos Aires province on Sunday, a critical test ahead of October's midterms. With 86% of votes counted, the center-left Fuerza Patria coalition secured 46% against Milei's La Libertad Avanza 34%, defying polls predicting a closer race. Buenos Aires, contributing 30% of Argentina's GDP and 40% of voters, saw a 63% turnout. The loss amid a corruption scandal involving Milei's sister Karina raises concerns for his austerity-driven agenda. Well, the Peronist victory signals a potential shift as Milei struggles to maintain momentum before the national elections. And speaking about the upcoming 2026 Hungarian polls, Prime Minister Viktor Orbán said that the elections would offer Hungarians a choice between a party that put the country first or the one that would usher in chaos and poverty by linking the country more closely to the EU and NATO. He warned his right-wing Fidesz supporters that aligning with Brussels would lead to instability and economic decline.
It is clear that Hungary has only two options in strategic terms. We have to choose between them. Both are possible, both have their own outlines, they have a clear body, substance, and you can choose either one. The first is to join the Brussels policy. I think this would be catastrophic and would lead to chaos and poverty. We would simply hitch Hungary's car to the European train.
While Orbán faces growing competition from centre-right candidate Peter Magyar. Magyar is a former government insider whose Fidesz party currently leads Orbán's Fidesz in most polls. He pledged to revitalise Hungary's economy by freeing up billions in EU funds frozen due to Orbán's rule of law policies, cracking down on corruption, introducing a wealth tax and reducing taxes for lower income earners. And Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei bemoans his country's oil production levels and calls for the diversification of its export markets. Well, Khamenei criticized Iran's low oil production, citing outdated methods and tools compared to other oil-rich regions. Well, Khamenei also called for more dynamism on oil exports, stressing the need for multiple and diverse customers, with China still the dominant buyer of Iranian oil. Despite strained relations and disrupted nuclear talks, Iran signals openness for diplomacy, with Foreign Minister Arakchi calling for an honest conversation. And moving on, Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba resigned after less than a year in power, during which he lost his majority in both houses of parliament. The lower house elections in October 2023-4 saw the Liberal Democratic Party suffer its worst result in 15 years. Taking responsibility for the defeat, Ishiba stepped down to avoid a split within the ruling LDP. The hunt for LDP successor and Japan's next Prime Minister begins.
Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba resigned on Sunday, ushering in a potentially lengthy period of policy paralysis at a shaky moment for the world's fourth largest economy. Ishiba asked his Liberal Democratic Party, which has governed Japan for almost all of the post-war era, to hold an emergency leadership race, adding he would continue his duties until his successor was elected.
I have decided to resign as the Liberal Democratic Party president. Now that negotiations concerning the US tariff measures have reached a turning point, I thought this was the appropriate time to step aside and make way for the next Prime Minister.
Since coming to power less than a year ago, Ishiba has overseen his ruling coalition lose its majorities in elections for both houses of parliament amid voter anger over rising living costs. Reacting on Ishiba's resignation, some Tokyo residents expressed shock, while some said this would bring political uncertainty. With all the turmoil around tariffs right now, I hope the next Prime Minister will be someone who can properly manage the tariff issues and handle diplomacy more effectively.
Personally, I don't really have anything against Ishiba, and I don't think the issue this time is really his fault. It's more that we, the people, are saying no to the Liberal Democratic Party. So I really feel that it is wrong for Ishiba to take responsibility for that.
Things will be the same no matter who becomes Prime Minister. I think it'll be interesting if they try and elect someone from a different party.
With Shigeru Ishiba's resignation, attention turns to who will next steer the world's fourth largest economy. The process to pick Japan's next leader is more complicated than before, as Ishiba's Liberal Democratic Party and its junior coalition partner lost their majorities in both houses of parliament during his tenure. First, the LDP must pick a new president to replace Ishiba. Candidates will then embark on a period of debates and campaigns across Japan, culminating in a vote by lawmakers and rank-and-file party members. While a fresh leadership race could add pain for an economy hit by US tariffs, markets are focusing more on the chance of Ishiba being replaced by an advocate of looser fiscal and monetary policy. Among the probable contenders are LDP veteran Sanai Takaichi. Takaichi criticized the Bank of Japan's interest rate hikes and was a close second in last year's LDP leadership runoff. The telegenic political scion Shinjiro Koizumi, who gained prominence as Ishiba's farm minister, was tasked with trying to cap soaring prices, is another contender. Since the LDP does not have a majority in either house, it is not guaranteed that the next LDP president will become prime minister. Whoever becomes the next leader may choose to call a snap election to seek the national mandate. There is a slim possibility that an opposition party leader takes the helm as Japan's opposition remains fractured. But the far-right anti-immigration Sansieto party made big gains in July's upper house election, bringing the once fringe ideas into the political mainstream, a trend increasingly also being seen in Europe. Tanvi Taneja for DD India.
Well, yen fell as investors girded for uncertainty in Japan following the resignation of Prime Minister Ishiba. Yields on super long Japanese government bonds have already been hovering near record highs, while Japan's Nikkei share gauge has recently slipped from last month's all-time peak. Experts say the markets are going to be framing this around what it means for fiscal policy, inflation and the BOJ's response. The yen fell across the board and was last 0.6% lower, while the Nikkei surged 1.8%, just shy of its recent record high. Well, Hong Kong was hit by severe tropical storm Tapaha, prompting the closure of schools and many businesses. In response to severe storm Tapaha, Hong Kong shut down schools and many businesses on Monday. The storm came within 170 kilometers of the city, bringing with it gale force winds and heavy rain that affected much of the financial hub. As a precaution, several flights were cancelled. Most public transport services were also suspended. However, Hong Kong's mass transit railway system continued to operate at reduced frequency. Well, the Hong Kong Observatory announced that the Typhoon 8 signal, third highest warning, would remain effective until at least 11 a.m. local time. Businesses are allowed to reopen once the signal is lowered, but schools will remain closed all day. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. London Underground workers began a week of strikes on Sunday, set to bring the network to a standstill and cause massive disruption for travellers in the British capital. The Rail, Maritime and Transport Union is striking over pay, fatigue, shift patterns and shorter working hours. Passengers have been asked to finish journeys by 6 p.m. with almost no trains running Monday to Thursday. London's public transport operator, Transport for London, has offered a 3.4% pay rise and working to resolve the issue. Well, hundreds of women gathered in Mexico City on Sunday to take part in mass self-defense classes addressing concerns over gender-based violence and street insecurity. The event, organized by community centers and government bodies, saw participants of all ages joined a high-energy session learning basic techniques to protect themselves. And still to come on India Newshour. 13th FTA negotiations between India and EU to begin today. Talks crucial in determining the next steps. Total lunar eclipse enthralls sky watchers. Blood moon witnessed in Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore. An Indian Navy band participates in 50th Independence Day celebrations of Papua New Guinea.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. US President Donald Trump issues last warning to Hamas to accept hostage deal or face consequences. Hamas says discussing ideas received from the US. Trump indicates readiness to impose new sanctions on Moscow hours after Russian drones hit Kyiv. European leaders to visit US to discuss Russia-Ukraine conflict. Detained workers to fly back after South Korea reaches deal with the US to release citizens. White House borders vows more raids on businesses. In sports, Indian men's hockey team beats defending champion South Korea to win the Asia Cup title. India earns direct qualification for the Hockey World Cup 2026. And another chapter added in the greatest rivalry of modern tennis as Carlos Alcaraz beats arch rival Jannik Sinner to claim his second US Open title. Well, the 13th round of free trade agreement negotiations between India and the European Union are set to begin on Monday. The outcome of this round of negotiations will be crucial in determining the next steps. Following the negotiating round, European Commission's Agriculture Commissioner Christoph Hansen and Trade Chief Maros Sefcovic are also likely to be in India later this week to hold talks with Indian counterpart Piyush Goyal. The concerning issues between India and the EU are related to differences in areas of rules of origin, market access, and duties on wine and dairy products. The next round has been slated for early next month in Brussels. If resolved, both sides look to seal the FTA by end of this year. The European Union is India's biggest trade partner, with bilateral trade in goods recording $135 billion in the financial year 2023-24. Well, also expected in Delhi is Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, who will be leading an economic delegation to India to seal cooperation agreements that are expected to deepen economic relations and boost mutual investments between the two countries. During the three-day visit to India starting Monday, Smotrich is expected to meet with his counterpart and other senior government officials, alongside business representatives and representatives of the Jewish community in his country. Well, a manipulated video is circulating online, falsely portraying the Indian Chief of Army Staff, General Upendra Dwivedi, as making statements about India losing fighter jets and soldiers during Operation Sindoor. In a fast fact check undertaken by the Press Information Bureau, it has been found that the Indian Chief of Army Staff has not made any such statement. It added that fake AI videos are being spread to mislead and cause panic. PIB further urged citizens to report any such content or mobile number +91 8799 711 259 or write to factcheck@pib.gov.in. Well, when India's daughters take to the seas, they do more than sail. They shatter the glass ceilings. In historic first, 10 women officers from the Indian Navy and Indian Army, Navy and Air Force will embark on a tri-service circumnavigation mission on board Indian Army sailing vessel or ISV Triveni on Thursday, that is 11 September, covering 26,000 plus nautical miles, crossing the equator twice and rounding the 3 Great Capes. The team will brave the world's toughest oceans, including the Southern Ocean and the Drake Passage. The all-women expedition is not just about sailing, it is a milestone in India's maritime journey, showcasing Nari Shakti of women in power in uniform, tri-service unity and the spirit of adventure. Well, the Indian Navy band participated in the military tattoo as a part of the 50th Independence Day celebrations of Papua New Guinea. In a post on X, the Indian Navy spokesperson highlighted that the Indian Navy band presented a repertoire of martial tunes and Indian melodies, earning wide appreciation from the audience and the dignitaries. Along with the Indian Navy band's participation in the military tattoo, there were several other nations that also came together, symbolizing unity, discipline and shared heritage through the universal language of music. The goodwill visit symbolizes India's commitment to strengthening its engagements with Pacific Island nations under the Act East policy and promoting peace, stability and inclusive growth in the Indo-Pacific region. Well, the celestial enthusiasts across the world witnessed the rare total lunar eclipse of blood moon on the 7th of September. The Earth's shadow started covering the lunar disk at 9:57 p.m. IST. By 11:01 p.m. IST, the Earth's shadow completely covered the moon at 11:01 p.m. IST, turning it coppery red, putting up the stunning display. The lunar eclipse, the second one for this year and longest since 2022, was visible across India, including in major cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad and others. Apart from India, the eclipse was also visible in Australia, the Far East, the Middle East, Europe and some parts of Africa. Stargazers witnessed the shadow of Earth gracefully gliding across the moon, transforming it into a glowing coppery red disk.
And the last lunar eclipse, and this is special because this is total lunar eclipse, and after so long that India and Delhi probably have waited to see the spectacular events. When sunlight falls on the moon and Earth comes in between and obstruct that part. So in this situation we see the total lunar eclipse. So lunar eclipses in comparison to the solar eclipses are safe to watch. So anyone without any hassles, without any special gadgets and all, lunar eclipse is a naked eye event you can see by your eyes.
And today with my family, we are witnessing it for the first time here. So I believe that, these eclipses are just to cleanse yourself. The moon energy will cleanse, detoxification of your body. So it is very, very natural phenomena.
This was one of the most interesting experiences I have ever seen. Extremely immersing and more interesting than any article could ever be. I am glad to have watched this amazing phenomena.
Lunar eclipses occurs when sun, moon and earth comes in a straight line, and sun and moon are two sides apart, and the shadow of earth falls on the moon. So this happens only during a full moon day.
Well, following the lunar eclipse on Sunday, thousands of devotees gathered at the banks of the Ganges at different places to take a ritual bath to cleanse themselves of the negative energies believed to accumulate during the celestial event. The holy dip performed at Brahma Muhurat or early morning is considered highly auspicious. Participants expressed reverence for the river, emphasizing the importance of keeping the Ganges clean and respecting its sacredness. Well, as the monsoon activity continues, many parts of India are expected to receive light to heavy rainfall over the coming days. While Gujarat and Rajasthan brace for intense downpours owing to the depression, the rest of the country isn't behind. From the hills to the coast, here's what to expect. Well, light to moderate rain with isolated heavy spells likely to be seen over the hilly areas of Jammu, Himachal and Uttarakhand. Meanwhile, the flood situation has eased as Punjab levels recedes slightly. On the other hand, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Bihar will also see wet days through mid-September. Well, the natives can also expect frequent showers in Assam, Meghalaya, Arunachal and other northeastern states, especially between 11th to the 13th of September. Among the southern India, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, coastal Andhra and Rayalaseema are set to get scattered rain. Strong winds are expected along the Andhra coast. Well, the Indian Meteorological Department stated that a deep depression hovering over North Gujarat and southwest Rajasthan is slowly drifting westward at 2 km per hour. Centered near Radhanpur, the system is expected to cross Kutch and parts of southwest Rajasthan and Pakistan by the afternoon of September 8th. It will gradually weaken into a depression. Residents in the affected areas are advised to stay alert for possible heavy rainfall and localized disruptions. Meanwhile, the situation in Punjab is gradually easing following improved weather in the state and the hilly regions of Himachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. 48 people have lost their lives so far, while 3 people are still reported missing. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Punjab on Tuesday to review the flood situation. He's also expected to personally assess local conditions and understand ground realities to ensure maximum assistance for the affected people. In Ludhiana, 2 sections of the Satluj River Dam have been weakened and efforts are underway to reinforce them. As the weather situation improves, schools have reopened across the state from today. And for more on the situation in Punjab, we have Gurmeet Singh joining us. Well, Gurmeet, as the waters have started receding now, what's the current situation in Punjab, especially in Amritsar and the nearby areas?
Lipakshi, as we know that there was a respite from rain for 48 hours in Punjab, but since yesterday, several parts of Punjab are experiencing drizzling and rain in various parts of Punjab. And if we talk about the torrential monsoon rains combined with the controlled water releases, that has inundated almost all districts of Punjab, and that is creating a challenge for the district administration or for the people who are carrying out the rescue operations in all districts. And first of all, the latest update that we are getting in is from Ludhiana. In Ludhiana, there are 2 points which have got weakened at the embankment. One is the Sasrali village and second one is Boothgarh. In both of the points, the local administration, army teams have been deployed, as well as the localites are trying to strengthen the embankment over there. And the second update we are getting in is from Firozpur and Fazilka. Firozpur and Fazilka are 2 districts which are adjacent to the international boundary that we share with Pakistan, and these districts are continuously experiencing rains, and incessant rain have again increased the water level, and that is a big challenge for the localites over there. And the water level is not 1 or 2 feet. The water level has gone to 6 or 7 feet. So that is a big challenge for the localites and the district administration over there. And in Firozpur and Fazilka, the water level is increasing due to 3 reasons. The very first reason is Harike embankment, which has got weakened, got breached from several sides, and due to that the water came to the fields and the villages, several villages. Second reason is that Harike headworks is there, and that is constantly releasing water, and that water is coming to the fields and the villages and even the urban areas. And third reason is, as I've already told you, that it is adjacent to the international boundary, and we know that in Pakistan's Punjab, there are floods, and the flood water is coming towards the Indian side also, and that is the main reason why the Firozpur and Fazilka are still inundated. If we talk about the worst affected districts like Gurdaspur, Amritsar and Kapurthala and Hoshiarpur, then there is little respite from the water level as it is receding at the moment. And if we talk about the dams in Punjab, there are 3 prominent dams, and out of these 3, one dam is still above the danger mark, that is Pong Dam. The water level, the danger mark over there is 1380 feet, and the water level at the moment is 1392.97 feet. That is about 13 feet above the danger mark. And if we talk about the Bhakra Dam, then Bhakra Dam is at the level of 1677.39 feet. That is again near the danger mark, but below that. Now, if we talk about the Ranjit Sagar Dam, that is again the below danger mark. The water level there is 524.82 meters. So right now, the situation is precarious in some areas, and the administration is constantly trying to bring the situation under control.
All right, Gurmeet, the situation seems to be very dire. All right, Gurmeet, the situation seems to be very dire as of now, but the Indian Army has been deployed in the region to provide medical assistance and relief. Tell us about the relief and the rescue efforts going on in full spring in the state.
See, as far as if we talk about the relief operations that are being carried out in 3 ways. Number one is district administration. It is actively carrying out the relief operations and trying to rescue the people from the places where they are stranded. Because there are several places which are still inundated, submerged into the flood waters, and the administration is trying to bring the people out of that area and urging them to move to the safer locations. Second one is army teams are deployed in a large number in Amritsar, Pathankot and Doordarshan. Several villages are there where the army is launching its operations and rescuing people over there. And several NGOs are also active and volunteering and bringing people out of this challenging situation. Yes.
All right, Gurmeet. Thank you so much for all that update from Jalandhar. Well, you're watching India Newshour. Time now for some sports news. The Indian men's hockey team has won the Asian Cup 2025 title by beating defending champions 4-1 in the finals Rajgir in Bihar on Sunday. Dilpreet Singh scored 2 goals while Sukhjit Singh and Amit Rohidas scored a goal each. Dain Son opened the scoring for Korea the very next minute, but it proved merely to be a consolation goal. This is India's 4th Asia Cup title and the first since 2017. The victory also guarantees India's direct entry into the upcoming World Cup. The FIH World Cup in 2026 will take place in the Netherlands and Belgium. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated the Indian men's hockey team on their triumph win over South Korea in the final of Asia Cup. He wrote on X, and I quote, "Congratulations to our men's hockey team for their splendid win in the Asia Cup 2025 held in Rajgir, Bihar. This win is even more special because they have defeated the defending champions, South Korea. This is a proud moment for Indian hockey and Indian sports. May our players continue to scale even greater heights and bring more glory to the nation," unquote. And India correspondent Gaurav Kumar takes us through India's journey in this edition of the Asia Cup and how important this victory is for the team heading into the World Cup and Asian Games in 2026.
So Indian men's hockey team has created history here in Rajgir. They have done superb. They beat Korea by a 4-1 comfortable margin. And what was the biggest thing of this victory is that they have qualified for the 2026 Hockey World Cup. It was never easy because they have to face Korea, and that Korea who has been a 5-time champion of this tournament. So it was never easy. We have seen that in the Super 4 match, both teams have drawn with a 2-2 score. So this was real test of Indian team, but we have to say that they have declared themselves in a very good position. They have scored in a very first quarter. Sukhjit Singh was the man who has scored, and then after then Dilpreet Singh and the whole Indian team then split up for this victory. Well, if we talk about the overall performance of this Indian team, we can say that this team has a capability of doing well. We all know that next year is Asian Games, and for that, this victory will be means a lot for them. With cameraman Saurabh Bakshi, this is Gaurav Kumar reporting from Rajgir, Bihar, DD India.
And on to US Open now. Spaniard Carlos Alcaraz clinched his second US Open title, beating arch rival Jannik Sinner in the final on Sunday. Carlos Alcaraz ended the reign of Jannik Sinner with a 6-2, 3-6, 6-1, 6-4 and took his revenge for the Wimbledon final loss earlier this year in a perfect echo of the triumph that first propelled him to the #1 spot in 2022. Alcaraz's second New York title lifted him back to the top of the world rankings. A dejected Sinner was left to contemplate another Grand Slam final loss to Alcaraz this season after coming up short in their French Open epic in June. And for more on the US Open, Narayan Singh joins us for more. Well, Narayan, how did Carlos Alcaraz adjust his game to overcome Jannik Sinner, especially after his loss in the Wimbledon final earlier this year?
Good morning, Ipakshi. As you mentioned that how he adjusted his games to the crucial point. We know that in Wimbledon, where he lagged was his service. He was not able to compete with the service of the Jannik Sinner in the Wimbledon, and that's why he lost the Wimbledon title. But this time around, he worked on his serve, and it was clearly visible from the first set. He was dominant and won the first set, but in the second, we saw that Sinner making a comeback, but he continued that momentum that he got in the first set, and definitely the way he switched his game from the powerful baseline rallies to the net play, and as well as towards the bringing the variety in his game. We saw his top spin, his drop shots, his slice, everything was there in, we can say that the way Carlos Alcaraz played yesterday, it was wonderful. And most importantly, we can say that he was looking more confident here. And also, we saw that this year, now it's a split of 2-2 between these two young titans of the world tennis. 2 Grand Slam against the name of Jannik Sinner and 2 against the name of Carlos Alcaraz. And we saw the way Sinner was heavily dominating the Grand Slam circuit in the recent past. But now Alcaraz, by winning this US Open, definitely he got the #1 ranking in the world tennis too. And also now he showed that he is hungry for the more titles, more success in the Wimbledon, and after that we saw that in US Open, and but overall we can say that it's going to be a fantastic contest ahead in the world tennis right now, especially for the these two young players, especially because we know that Jannik Sinner is one of the we can say the most accomplished player of this era, but especially when we talk about the power, when we talk about the changing his game from the baseline rallies to the net play, then Alcaraz is one of the best, and hoping that he took a revenge of the Wimbledon final also, where he lost to Jannik Sinner.
Absolutely. With #1 ranking in the world, as you mentioned, what does this victory mean for Alcaraz's legacy and his position in the current power dynamic of men's tennis?
Lepaki, he has created multiple records by winning this, we can say, the US Open. Definitely now he has 6 titles under his belt, and he is youngest. He is 22 years old, and after Bjorn Borg, he is the youngest to have 6 titles under his belt at the age of 22. And Jannik Sinner, we know that he is 24 years old. So there is a gap of 2 years, but both of them are the fantastic pairs. But if this tournament, it was, we know that Sinner is a hardcore court player tournament. He has dominated the hardcore events. He has 2 Australian Open. He has also won US Open. But this was a challenge for the Alcaraz also to defeat Jannik Sinner on the hard court. Jannik Sinner, if you take a look at his journey in this tournament, he dropped 2 sets before the finals, and in the semi-finals too, he took a medical timeout, and he has some abdominal issues. He was not looking 100% fit. So we can say that Alcaraz also took full advantage of that thing also. He was not looking in his absolute best. So it was also, we can say that, a favoring Alcaraz. And Alcaraz, we know that when you will give him a bit room, definitely he will take the whole court, and his court coverage was too fantastic in this tournament. All in all, we can say that the legacy is, we can say that, taking forward. If you take a look, the tennis for the last 20 years, it was dominated by the big 3, Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, and Djokovic is the last installment of this big three, and other two was retired. And talking about Novak Djokovic, he lost to Carlos Alcaraz in the semi-finals. And once we saw it 3 years
All
back.
Right. Yeah, all right, Narayan. Thank you so much for all those updates from there. And surfing went to the dogs in Del Mar, California, with canines hitting the waves to raise funds for a local animal shelter. Over 50 dogs made a splash at the 20th annual Surf Dog Surfathon. It was all for a good cause, with pet parents and the poochers banding together to raise money. Take a look. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.